Finance meeting for Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. Let the record show that all aldermen are present, with the exception of Alderwoman McCall, who is excused. We have no referrals for consideration. We do have our unfinished business tonight, which is the 2024-25 budget. So we asked for some additional analysis, some different, the easiest than pulling anything up on their phones. So we'll have a variety of scenarios that we can review, discuss, and really the initial proposal is, as it stands currently, is 0% water increase, but the council has asked for additional $300,000 worth of capital funds that can be encumbered to be used for water infrastructure projects, rather than just repairs, being able to do some major water line replacements. We can do that over a couple of years, set aside upwards of $1 million. We can do a water line replacement, so a major overhaul there. So now it's just trying to understand what's the best way to finance that, to pay for that. Currently, I believe to achieve that, Mayor, is it right? Currently, it's a 6% increase. It's to achieve the 300,000.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are there any comments or questions before? Brad, you can feel free to join us at the table too.
All right.
So if I can start, so I was trying to get kind of an understanding ahead of time here, and have Brad explain some things to us. Based on the information we reviewed last night, we talked about kind of a general breakdown of really what we're looking at is consumption of water and consumption or usage versus revenue, and what are the key drivers and users and so forth. And so some of the feedback, and I totally left my current breakdown. Does anybody have the current breakdown from last night of the percentages by chance?
The residential consumption to versus revenue.
Yeah.
Do you remember them, Brad? Or do you have them?
Did you put that in your thing or not?
I mean, it's on the sheet right now.
Those are different now, Brad, aren't they? You altered.
Well, I finished the sheet, so because I did an average, so April and May are estimated and completed based on the averages of the prior 10 months. So what you're looking at here, other than the industrial, because the industrial, see the red 291 down on the, that's the adjustment that makes
There's $255,000 adjustment.
Right.
That was in the cell. John and I saw it. That's your adjustment for what's going to be captured.
Right, so that 17.8 you see there for a percentage
Yes.
isn't right, that's high.
Correct.
It was about 13.
Yeah.
So that's what it would be with your projected numbers. Is these correct? These percentages? Because last time
Everything else will remain the same,
Okay.
but industrial would still be, so industrial would go down and residential would probably go up then. Residential and commercial would go up.
So I heard Jason say it, and that was right. Currently, industrial accounts for 18% of the usage
13%.
and 13%.
That's what I
of
was
the
trying to
revenue.
get to, Rick, because then
Currently.
you said currently isn't residential 55, revenue 48, usage somewhere in that ballpark.
Correct, so,
Yeah, I think that was right.
so currently, commercial and residential subsidize industrial.
It's 48, 55, and then the commercial, there was about an 8% disparity,
Right.
rings a bell.
Right, that is the case in most communities, because most communities, any industrial, high usage user, their rate is less because of that high consumption. So, like, this isn't something that's unique to us or Olean or here. That's almost everywhere that has, in fact, I've never heard of anywhere saying we charge our industries the same as we charge our residents the same rate. Those large users can't survive paying that same rate. It just doesn't, you don't see it anywhere.
And I think I'll speak for myself. I agree with that. But at the same time, I don't think it should be I think what we asked was to have it a little bit more equalized, right? To have it something not as extreme as a 50% discount on water, right? But personally, I don't also agree that industrial heavy users should pay the same price as I pay, right?
All we're saying through this is, we can't afford to sell 2 million gallons at 50%.
There you go.
Right, so, but for clarity, their rate is still less, industries.
Yes.
So, to your point that you just said that we can't sell the gallon of water theory, okay?
Right.
Their rate is still less.
Yep.
We're just equalizing the consumption, revenue percentages,
That's all.
creating
Right.
that.
Right.
Equal
We're bringing them
distribution.
closer together
Right.
over.
So while I agree about the not paying as much of the large user, then the greater disparity then gets compounded when it's 48% usage, 55% revenue. So it's being sold cheaper and then the disparity in there. So I'm happy that when you look at your final numbers now, it's in the proposed, and the end result, let's talk 2 years down the road when you're in the yellow there, it would be a 51.3 consumption to a 52.1 revenue stream, right? If I'm reading it correctly?
Where are you at?
On the water, residentials would consume 51.3% of the water, and they would account for 52.1% of the revenue.
Once you get the
To the final
additional-
achievement, yeah.
Yeah.
To the final result of what, let's say, is in the yellow. Because in my opinion, the yellow's too much right now, I'll say that. The blue, I believe, is fine, and then next, within that 26, we're trying to achieve the yellow. Industrial's still paying a lower rate with more breaks, but it's still water consumption to revenue is then equalized, and I would be completely in support of that.
Right. I can't confirm that this yellow gets us exactly there, but it's close. I mean, it's.
Given the time constraints that you had to deal with, I could live with that.
So to make sure we're all on the same page, what you're talking about, JR, would essentially require an additional $255,000 be added to industrial. Where the blue move gets us is $100,000 of that 255 this year. So it closes the gap, but if we're looking at trying to do that over a 2 or 3 year period, it doesn't, right? It's not the full 255, right? It gets us
The yellow?
the blue.
The blue.
Yeah, the blue is somewhere between, say, 80 and 100.
So it's that incremental step right? So
And then,
instead of it being an 18-13 split, it's gonna be an 18-15.
but with the plan in place that we are going to achieve the yellow.
Oh, yeah, you're looking to achieve, not so much the yellow, you're looking to achieve the equality.
Wow, right, your yellow breakdown gives that, that's why I was referring to it. I know nobody else can see the colors, but I'm referring to your proposals as good with this one now, with next year looking at getting to where we want to be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'll ever personally 100% support the idea that there should not be discounts given to industrial users. I think there needs to be. I don't think I'll ever agree to see an 18 and 18 because I still believe that means every dollar is the same dollar in water. But I think that it is right and fair to close that gap. So year after year, residential and commercial users aren't hit with 6% increases, right? And if to achieve the capital outlay that we're looking for, we can make this move while, say, increasing water this year 3.5% or 4%, I think is fair. And then going forward, we shouldn't be faced with that sort of increase.
I do believe there's a startup there that's ramping up. And so they may, I don't know how big they plan on getting, but that will be an industrial account that will come online as they ramp up operations. So that will bring some revenue over a couple of years.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanna, I also agree that, that there should be, some discounts for our industrial users as well. But just kinda echoing what John said, it shouldn't be 50%. So I appreciate all the work that you've done in the last couple days, like do this, do that, and had it all here for us and easy to understand, so thank you for that as well.
Alderman Robbins.
I just want to say, first off, thank you, Brad, because I didn't think you were going to be able to get this done. I had little faith at all, so I want to apologize for not having faith. You got it done. I'm happy. I'm glad that the gap is closed a little. Like I said, I'm glad that we can get something going and hopefully spread it out over a 2-year period like we had discussed, get those disparities tightened. That's a lot better than what it was when you look at the projections, and I'm ready to get going on that. What did we come to with the rate increases? It was like 3 and 3, or was it 3 and 6?
So at this time, this just pertains to water,
Right.
The water rate. And I don't know if there has been any work with Lens at this point to factor in, because I think right up until kind of the last minute here, we were making calls to Brad and to Brad's office and saying, can we see this, can we see that? But if that, the breakdown to get, again, close the gap, yield an additional 100,000 of the $300,000 we're trying to come up with. Lens, do you have a kind of just a ballpark figure? Is 1% equal to about $50,000? Because I'm just going from if we're, you had a 0% and then we asked for an additional 300,000. So, and you came back with, okay, we can put the 300,000 in at 6%. 6%. So is it about 50,000 a percent?
About 50, 55.
Right. So I'm thinking maybe Lens could come back maybe tomorrow morning with the exact figures, but I'm thinking it's probably gonna be more to about 4%.
That's what I was,
Is that,
go by the numbers you just presented.
give me,
Because I plugged the numbers from Brad this morning. I think it was like 3
We changed it since this morning.
Yeah, sorry, Lance. I think you're on that one, but anyways, if you didn't get the email from this afternoon, I'll.
Yeah, I did, but I was looking at something else.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, I agree with this.
I mean, you can do anything now.
Brad,
Yeah.
You pulled all this
You
off.
set the bar now.
Yeah.
on these
Bar set.
Does that have any of the proposed, the aforementioned 3.5% also factored into
No.
it?
No, so it'll be more.
Okay, so just want to point out too, I get Jen and John's bold statement, but if you look at, pull up the water rates, their top rate, top industrial rate is still lower than the lowest commercial rate. So they are still getting water at a cheaper rate. And when it drops down, it's substantially lower than any other threshold still on the books. The rate is.
But they're also using like hundreds of thousands of gallons more.
I understand that. You said that it should still be, it is still, your guys' concern is that it should still be less. I'm agreeing with you, pointing out, it is still substantially less. Even with this factored in there, it's still less. And they get 3 thresholds. Residents get none, correct?
Residential's no.
Residents get none, and for older folks, it might be single person or one person. You use 400 gallons of water, you still got charged for 16. So you factor in all of that. That rate of that 2-person or that 93-year-old man who lives at the end of my street, his per gallon rate's pretty damn high.
That too is not uncommon.
I'm not saying it's uncommon,
Sure.
pointing out that when you factor in and average back out, it's still a pretty expensive gallon of water.
Correct.
And also just point out, it's still a discounted water rate.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's less than a cent for that gallon of water.
What I gave you there doesn't have any rate increase. So if I'm saying, you know, it's gonna give you maybe 100,000, an increase, you're gonna get more.
Right, but the increase should offset collectively across the board to cover the $200,000, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So that's the point, is that
Yeah.
we should,
This factor that I put in here for the industrial, next, you know, a year from now, or, of course, it's gonna be a little bit more, because this isn't effective immediately. Takes a little while to get the stats in. But that number will be different next year.
Yeah.
All this numbers look different next year. Everything's gonna change.
So we need to hold on to this so we can do a comparison.
Sure.
Okay.
you get the file.
And I don't know what it buys, but that email I sent out last night, we did it that way, we stopped looking at it really from a residential, commercial, industrial, other than your minimum fee. And we did it that way, every user pays the same price for the tiers, right? So even if you're industrial, up to $6,000, you're gonna pay the same rate. 6,000 gallons, you pay the same rate as a residential customer. And then you start getting your discount as you get into your higher tier, higher gallon usage. But for the first, say 6,000, you'd pay the same rate.
What is the average house use again, approximately, the average residential user, ballpark, just,
What we're seeing, or like,
no, just, what is the average house in Olean, the average residential user?
oh, probably 200 gallons a day. 150 to 200. Of course, you know, you have homes with 4 people in it, and you have a home with
Yeah.
one person.
Right, like, you know, Dave, like 1 gallon a week.
Some would be overpaying for my water, I mean, that's.
It's not just me, I usually dance right around the minimum,
got you,
and
we
it's
have
like
9 people,
$35,
so.
the whole bill.
No worries.
Well, I can give you an example, but on mine, we had, Patty and I and 2 of our grandchildren staying with us for a while, and, our average bill a month was about $80, now it's down to 40.
Oh.
It was just Patty and I there, so.
Right. You had teenagers, though, right?
Yeah.
5 showers a day.
Listen, we have a lot of people, I pay $76 a month, and I have 9
Start
people in my
calling shower
house,
neighbors.
all teenagers.
Must have one of them low flow shower heads.
I can tell you statistically, we're seeing from this spreadsheet, residential home in Olean is using 96 gallons a day.
Wow. Wow.
That's your average.
So on, so 100. It's easy to do. Okay. So 3,000. 3,000 a month. Okay. All right. So if we can, then, sounds like I think we're comfortable. I think it's something that it's taking a step in the direction the council would like to see without incurring a complete giant step in shock to the industrial users. And a little bit of an equalization there, and then we can wait to get Len's to confirm what the water increase, the water rate would be tomorrow morning. So if we can receive that in an email, we can confirm it. And as far as sewer rates go, my pitch there is, I understand, effectively, at least initially, we could come down and match whatever the water rate increase is. And we could pull some money out of the sewer fund and move, if we moved 100,000 of that, because we do have a pretty high sewer fund balance, and allocate 100,000 out of that into the capital fund, and then just put 200,000 additional into the budget to still achieve that $300,000. I like things are the same. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So, preparing for that aspect, I looked at the BWB report, and I remember seeing that the expenditures were a lot less than the revenue. And when you take that in consideration, and then what we do have for sewer fund, I know I was gonna bring up that I think we should steer away from the 6%, because it seems as though there would be a lot more revenue pulled in for sewer compared to water, which water is the one that seems to be the one that's in more disarray, I guess. So, I would agree, whatever we do with the water, we should do with the sewer. I'd be comfortable with that. I don't think we would fall into a major hole or anything if we were to do 3% instead of 6% for the sewer, so.
And, yeah, and like you said, when we were talking about this is, you're at a comfortable, percentage, whatever you said, like 15% was what we wanna see in those funds, and that's pretty high, and then to be sitting on that and then still have this high increase to our residents really is doing a disservice. So I'm in favor of kind of pulling from that because of the balance and bringing that rate down for residents.
Well, we don't wanna forget, we've got some big tickets in sewer to do, right? Like millions.
One thing you might want to keep and be mindful of is a potential revenue source that we're not seeing yet, that we could be seeing within this next fiscal year.
Okay. Oh, right.
That will more than cover the $300,000.
Right. Okay. No, that's a fair point. Yeah, I think I'm inclined to do that. But I think collectively, if we could make that change, Lens, so whatever, the water rate ends up being, if we can get that to 4% and 4%, then collect equally with the sewer fund, and if we can pull what we can to start setting up that capital fund. I would also, after this, during the months of the summer, and after Brad takes a vacation or something to refresh, but I think visiting what Jason brought up, his proposal, I think is worthwhile to look into. But I also think that we need, just like everything else, so this is gonna be a big request for the mayor, but strategically, we need to start listing out all of the sewer projects that we know is on our list, what the estimated costs are, just water, same thing with the water fund, right? Same thing with everything, and we really should probably review that at least quarterly, if not monthly, touch base on it, and, because sometimes a lot of these different items fall off the map. The water filtration wall,
We should probably risk grant cover.
right, about how we're gonna pay for it, how much we need to save up, if that's the strategy or whatever. Okay, Vernon?
Since the PO, so it should be published in time Monday, for public hearing or whatever, since the PO is gonna be covering the interest rates for sewer and water. And that does not cover the plan that we had discussed on doing a 2-year plan. I think we should put this on unfinished business on finance to keep it there. That way we do revisit it and it doesn't just disappear.
That's fine, yeah, that's fine, and I mean, I think we can even postpone, can we skip over, can we postpone to certain dates? Yeah, so I mean, we don't even have to have it on every finance meeting, we can do it quarterly, right? Just to revisit it and say, all right, let's.
It'll be an item on the Excel spreadsheet in your folder,
Okay.
so that it'll remain open, so that we see it's still there, and we still need to follow up on it too.
And then maybe,
Find the first Tuesday in about 3 months out there, Jeff, was the first committee.
How do you know what today is, JR?
Today's the 11th.
in what month?
July 2nd?
That's our,
Yeah, it looks like probably maybe third week of July. July 16th.
so yeah, so you can just
Yeah.
put it on for that date.
There you go. I'm fine with that.
And then at that meeting, we just remember to then just table it again for 3 months and assign a new date.
And and it would be also good by that point,
Be a
we
month
probably
and a
only
half.
have a month.
Month and a half.
Should be able to at least see what the first month's data comes back in,
When?
July,
July.
mid-July, July 16th.
July 16th.
No.
No.
You gotta figure, you have to implement it, put it into effect, use it, and then, so use it a month to process it, then we bill it.
So by the second time we discuss it,
So, excuse me if I'm ignorant, but, the percentage of water increase, what's the split? Is there anything residential or we're just other?
Ian will give us that number tomorrow.
Okay, so it's gonna be based on how this wash
He needs
goes.
to go factor in the rest of everything, and then they'll send that out tomorrow.
Okay.
One thing too, I'll make sure everybody understands, if you're looking at the percentage, that 10, 15, 40 changes when you add a percentage to it. So when you add the 4%, whatever percentage to the tiered rates, after you apply that 4%, it might look like 11% and 17% and 42%, because the percentage obviously is not applied equally. 4% of a lesser number is not 4% of the higher.
Right.
That was gonna be my question, is the rate increase, let's say it's 4%, is it gonna go, are we gonna do the 10% and then the 4%, or are we gonna do the 4% and then the 10%?
You probably do this change and then do the 4.
The 10, 15, 40?
Right. Right. Or you could say, you know what, we're not gonna do a 4%, we're gonna figure out what 4% is.
Yep.
And then apply,
Yep.
say, we're gonna apply 0.4 cents to every, that way everything, it moves proportionally, or the same proportionally.
Yeah, that sounds like you and Len's got it all figured out. I'm good
Which
with
is
that.
something that's never been done before, to my knowledge. It's always been a percentage. And that's why you see this happening with theirs.
And then just give a 10% reduction off that number.
It's same deal, 4% to different numbers.
And
Makes
then it's
sense,
a
right?
reduction off from that.
Right, so it doesn't matter whether you do, if you give the 10% and then add the 4, as long as if you apply a percentage to different tiers, it drives a wedge between the tiers.
Right, but there's a base, right? There's the proposed rate, and then the percent reduction.
That's what I'm saying, if you just.
What is
raise your
the
proposed rate.
proposed rate based on?
I think I see what you're saying, so figure out the residential rates,
Yeah,
and then
and then you get the discount.
figure
from
10%
that.
of that is
Yeah.
first, and then
You have your
50% of that is the second.
base industrial rates, $5, and then you give me 10% off from it, then,
That's-
but now it's $1.04, you're gonna give me 10% off $1.04.
Well, I think we can work on this offline.
Yeah.
This is just.
You see what I'm saying now?
Yeah,
we're all-
And then you're still doing the 10%.
Anything else for this? I think, yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor.
I took the liberty today to talk to one of the leaders in the industry here. And the message from this person was that he's happy that the council is doing their due diligence with this, and just requested that they do it over time, which you are doing. And since his company will probably not have a problem with this, but smaller industries may. So he just was happy, I said they are doing their due diligence, he was happy with that, and just do it over time and not bang all at once, which we are, over 2 years is acceptable, it's acceptable.
No, I'm not even, I'll make a motion to adjourn, I'm not even giving Dave a chance.
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Robinson, all in favor, aye, opposed, motion. We got a motion to adjourn, see ya. Good night.